Hi everyone, I'm Karnak, it's your buddy, it's your pal. This is Star Wars Armada Explained. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be reviewing the upgrade card SPAT or SPHA-T or Spitting Distance or SPHA-T, however you prefer to call them. I like just calling them SPATs. It's simple enough for me to say. So SPATs are an upgrade card released in the Clone Wars expansion. You can get them from the Venators. Now I don't actually have a Venator model on hand to demonstrate this video with today. I've got an acclimator there, but for all intents and purposes, I'll be able to explain everything mechanically just fine without having the physical card on hand. You'll see I have it thrown up there on the left-hand side of the screen. Let's just go ahead and go through the card. So first of all, I just want to call out that awesome card art. Doesn't that just look so good? I love it. Just big mini lasers shooting out, blowing up a munificent there. So SPAT, if you look at its name, you'll see that there's no dot or bullet point in front of it. It means that it's not unique. It means you can equip one of these cards with each ship in your fleet as long as it meets all other requirements. Such as, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the card, you'll see that your ship needs to have an offensive retrofit upgrade slot. Other corner, you'll see its point cost, which is 7 points, and it is faction specific for the Republic only. Now, there are some additional modifiers that ensure that this card can only be equipped by Venators. If you look underneath SPAT's name, you'll see some wording there in italics. You're going to see one first, that's a modification, meaning that if you equip this card, you cannot equip any other upgrade cards that have the modification keyword, such as like H9s or quad turbo laser turrets, etc. Also, it has the Star Destroyer only mechanic, meaning that this card can only be equipped by Star Destroyers. And for the Republic, the only Star Destroyers that are released right now are Venators, meaning this card can only be equipped by a Venator 1 or a Venator 2. It cannot be equipped by any other ship in the Republic right now, and again, it's faction locked to the Republic only. So on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a little right arrow and then again a red box that has a concentrate fire token symbol in it. It means that if this card is exhausted, the only time that you can unexhaust this card is during the status phase and only if you spend a concentrate fire token. So your token needs to be actually assigned to the ship, and then you need to be able to have that available to is it spend? It is spend to then refresh your upgrade card or ready your upgrade card. So again, we'll go through all those steps here. All right, I know this upgrade card, I've gotten a lot of requests on it. A lot of people are very confused. It's a lot of text, and it's actually a very straightforward card. It's just that people misunderstand ignition rules. Even though the Onager's been out for a very long time, a lot of people still just do not understand ignition rules or how special battery armaments and firing arcs work. So I just highly recommend that. I'm not going to go in everything in detail because I've already covered that in other videos for the Onager. Just highly familiarize yourself with the ignition keyword topic and also the special battery armament and firing arc section of the rules reference guide. It's straightforward, but again, unless you're comfortable in understanding and following rules, I can see why people get tripped up by this card. We're going to cover, again, how it works and its timings. All right, so we have our quote-unquote Venator here that's equipped with SPATs. Again, when you equip this card, it has an immediate effect on your ship type or your ship card in that fact that it decreases your squadron value by 2. So that's kind of the drawback of this card. And then when you do equip this card, you gain Ignition Close. Now again, it's not an article. It doesn't have like that little bullseye portion of its hull zone that signifies that it's a special firing arc. So when you equip this card, it states, as it says there, each of your front, left, or right firing arcs is also a special firing arc. You have a special battery armament of 5 blue die and 1 black die. After you place your targeting token, exhaust this card. While this card is exhausted, you cannot place targeting tokens. So this is where people get confused because, again, when you have the Onager, you've got the Onager that's got its hull zone, and then within that hull zone, it's got another like dotted line that signifies its special firing arc. So obviously with this card, there's no other extra dotted lines that signify that. They're just saying, you know what, because the rules already state that your special firing arc is part of your front hull zone or the zone it's assigned to, just the whole thing is a special firing arc. So you're not having to restrict placing the token only within its special firing arc, you can place it anywhere at close range of the arc that you designate. So it gives a lot of flexibility. It's a lot more flexible than the onager. So again, the front, left, or right are special firing arcs. The rear hull zone, the rear arc, is not one. So you can't place these targeting tokens out the rear of your ship. And again, when you go to gather dice for the ignition attack, you're gathering an armament of 5 blue die and 1 black die. You're not gathering the front hull zone or the left or right hull zones die that are assigned to that area. That's only if you place the ignition targeting token and you're making ignition attack. But as you can see, if you're, it's 5 blue die, 1 black die is a very powerful. It's a good amount of damage in dice. You may not think that, but it's actually pretty strong. All right, so let's go through step by step. So you've equipped this card. It's the Venator's turn to activate. So we're going to go ahead and reveal its command dial. Okay, it's going to reveal a concentrate fire. I know that if I want to use this card multiple turns in a row, I'm going to need a way to get concentrate fire tokens so I can keep readying this card. So I'm going to take this concentrate fire dial. I'm going to turn it into a token. That token gets assigned to my ship. Now I know that I've got that ready for when I need it. Now, a lot of people misunderstand and think that when they reveal the concentrate fire dial, that they can immediately place their ignition token and then make attacks. Again, that's not how that works. Per the ignition rules, the only time that you can place a targeting token is at the end of a ship's activation, unless you have an upgrade card that specifically states otherwise, like, for example, the Onager's Cataclysm title. Well, obviously, this is not an onager, and it doesn't have any upgrade cards that allow for that. So again, you've revealed your dial, you got your token, you do regular shooty stuff if you can, then you move your ship. Then, as it says, after you place your targeting token, you can exhaust this card. So the only time, again, that you can place this targeting token is at the end of your ship's activation. So it's after your movement, it's after you've done any other stuff that you may have. You pull out your close range ruler. You measure from the hull zone. In this case, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to place this targeting token based off my front hull zone. So we range that out here. We get our token. Again, as per the rule state, it's within close range. So, and I like using these clear ones here because you can see it makes it very easy for me to see where that within is. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen some players try to put out like a medium range ruler and they go, oh yeah, this is within, right? That's at close range. And yeah, that's at close range, but the rules specifically state it needs to be within close range. So you can see there, I've got that token now within close range. Perfect. All right. So now when I go to make an ignition attack, let me back up one step. So now I've placed the targeting token. So as it says on there, after you place your targeting token, exhaust this card. You exhaust SPHA-Ts. And then while this card is exhausted, you cannot place targeting tokens, meaning that unless you don't have a plan, you only get one chance to place a targeting token to conduct an ignition attack unless you can refresh this card, which again, that's during the status phase, which is the last phase before the end of round. So you've activated your Venator, you reveal concentrate fire, you took it as a token, so you have that assigned to your ship, so you have that ready. You've moved your ship, it's at the end of its activation. You've placed your targeting token within close range of your front hull zone of your Venator. And then you go through the rest of the game. The Munificent, maybe he shoots at your Venator. He moves straight ahead because he's silly like that. And then you get during the status phase. And now during the status phase, as it says there on the top right, if you want to ready this card, you got to pay the cost of 1 concentrate fire token. So I'm going to take this concentrate fire token. I'm going to spend it. And then I'm going to refresh and ready this card. And now it's ready for the next time that I activate and move after I move my Venator and get to the end of its activation. I now can replace a targeting token again to ensure that I can keep utilizing this effect. Because again, if you don't have a token during the status phase and it's exhausted, you cannot refresh it at any other point. This is very important because I've seen people get to the start of the first round or in the middle of the next round and they go, oh yeah, I meant to spend and then refresh it and then do this thing. And as an opponent, you don't have to allow that because there's only one specific time you can refresh this card. Again, it's only during the status phase. So if somebody says, oh, I forgot and I want to ready it, if it's in a competitive tournament, I wouldn't allow my opponent to do that. Obviously, if it's a friendly game and they're just trying to learn their list and get the intricacies of it and get timing and stuff down, I would let them have it. Casual games are casual, but in a competitive game, I wouldn't let them do something like that. Okay, so we've got our token placed. We've ended our turn, or we've ended the round. We've refreshed the cards. We're ready to actually get to the point where we do some shoot. So we get to start of the game. We activate our Venator. So then we're ranging. So the first thing we need to do is check line of sight. Okay, line of sight from front to front is clear. There's no obstructions. This is an attack I'm able to make. It's a special ignition attack. So again, the whole zone is my ignition arc. So if there's another enemy ship over here or over here, as long as I'm able to see a whole zone, I'm able to conduct that attack. And an ignition attack you must conduct first. Okay, but we see that we're clear here. So then the range between the ships is long. So the range is long between the ships. But I still need to know what dice I'm gathering, and that's measured from the token. So we're not at close range with the token, meaning I can't gather that black die. But we are at medium range from the token to the cardboard. So I can gather 5 blue die. So we'll go ahead and remove this. That's the whole zone I'm attacking. I roll my 5 blue die. And hey, there we go. 2 accuracies and 3 damage. Now, because it's an ignition attack, I know this Munificent can't salvo me. So I'll go ahead and lock its other 2 defense tokens, its Brace and Redirect, and then I deal 3 damage to its front hull zone. Now, you might say, well, that doesn't seem too awful. That doesn't seem too strong. Well, you're not taking into account add die effects. So you can use things like a Concentrate Fire Dial to add die. If you have other ability to add die, like Clone Captain Zach, if you were shooting like out your sides. Any way to like add dice to the roll, you'll be able to accomplish. Now, if this guy had been a little bit closer and he was at close range and we rolled this black, let's say it had rolled into a hit, you concentrate fire in another black die, and then again you start getting all these modifications. I mean, that's a lot of damage, especially on these medium class ships. That's just like, woof, that just really can start hurting, especially if you get these accuracies in here and you start locking down defensive tokens. Now, one thing I want to make sure I am mentioning, and again, I see this mistake all the time, is some people will have like external racks equipped to their Venator, and they're like, oh, it's a close range, so I can add my black die. And like, no, because as we established, the attack itself from ship to ship is at long. You still measure range ship to ship with your range ruler, but the only time that when you gather dice is just you're ranging dice from the token. Okay, so no, you can't add external racks to an ignition attack just because you're rolling black die and it's close range from the token. It's not close range to the actual physical ship. Again, I want to make sure that's one thing I see people mess up on all the time. Okay. And then in a nutshell, that's SPHA-T. So you've shot your ignition shot. The guy took massive damage. You move your ship again, and then again at the end of your activation, as long as your card is unexhausted, you can place a new ignition token again within close. Now, I do want to point out one more thing about this within close mechanic, and I've seen people do this too. So when you choose a hull zone that it's going to be popping out of, let's say that we've done a maneuver and we've done something like this, I've seen people go, oh, you know what? I'm going to put this straddling both my hull zones. That way it doesn't matter where you go, I'm going to be able to get you. And you can't do that because, again, the rules specifically state you need to choose a hull zone. It needs to be within that hull zone's firing arc. You cannot straddle a line. So even though all 3 of these zones are capable of making ignition attacks, you still choose one zone to place that token completely within. No straddling the line. Because if it is straddling the line, or not that you can place a straddling the line, oh, you know what? I need to touch on that a little bit later. So there's no way you can place it straddling on the line or into the other hull zone like this. Can't do it. It has to be completely within. Okay. And there's a reason why I'm being very specific about that. I'll show you in just a minute. All right, so we place it in the front hull zone. So now if you're controlling the ship and somehow if you're able to get past that token and get into the side there, so even though your right hull zone is a special ignition arc, again, you have to still make the attack from the zone that token is within. So the front hull zone, obviously, that ship is not anywhere near there. So you can't shoot the Munificent out your front with an ignition attack because, again, it's not within... My laser is being silly. It's not within the front there. Now, if you had placed this token over here and done that, and put it where can you see? There you go. If you put it in your right hull zone, then obviously, yes, you can conduct the attack. But again, you can't conduct ignition attack from a ship that's not in the hull zone where it's able to attack it. So, essentially the same standard attack rules. All right. I forgot to grab a obstacle. Let me go grab one real quick. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything else with SPHA-Ts. So again, we've gone through step by step how SPHA-Ts works. Again, about how you can only place the targeting token at the end of the ship's activation. You have to exhaust the card if you place it. You can only ready the card during the status phase, and again, only have a concentrate fire token assigned to the ship. Again, you're able to add die to the attack as long as you follow all the rules of an attack. Here's a question. What happens if SPHA-Ts was to get discarded by a upgrade card like Darth Vader Boarding Team or Sunder or something like that? If the card is discarded, you no longer can use ignition attacks, even if you do have a targeting token in play, because you don't have an upgrade card that specifically tells you that you have a special battery armament or special firing arcs anymore. It's gone. This also means you would get your squadron value back, but I don't think that you would have a game plan for that going into anticipating your SPHA-Ts being discarded. So again, if SPHA-Ts gets discarded, you lose your ignition ability, even if the token is in the play area. Okay. So let's get into what happens if you place your targeting token on an obstacle. Let's say that, and this is something that was asked of me recently on the rules forum, and I'll read to this. So let's say that you place your targeting token on an obstacle in your front hull zone. And let's say somebody has something like Ezra, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to move this obstacle into your right hull zone. I don't think it actually can move that far, but I'm just using that for this example. So it goes from being in your front hull zone within, and then they move it to your other hull zone. Does the ignition attack, does that still work or not work? Yes, the ignition attack can still fire, but now it must come from your right hull zone. Even though it was placed in your front hull zone, because it got moved, now it's within your right hull zone, and it's not in your front hull zone anymore. So you make your ignition attack from this zone, but again, you can't do it out your front anymore. Only the zone that the token is within can actually fire. And then somebody had another question. It's like, well, based on what you said before about the token needs to be within a zone, one or the other, what happens if my opponent does move my targeting token and it's straddling both lines of the hull zones? As it says in the rule book, the targeting token needs to be within a hull zone. So this is technically at and not within, and therefore your targeting token is completely negated. You would not be able to make an attack. So if you want to see this, I'll make sure the link to the ruling for you guys on the video. But again, here's the question somebody asked: when you I forgot how much wording is in all this, but pretty much as it's written in the ignition range keyword topic, at the beginning of a ship's attack step, if its targeting token is in play, that ship must perform an ignition attack against a ship in the special firing arc that its targeting token is within as its first attack during this activation, if able. Again, if a targeting token is not within a hull zone special firing arc, as defined by range and distance topic, no ignition attack may be conducted. And then some other people, again, we're trying to say that just because the ignition token got moved to the right hole zone, well, then they can still ignition out their front. And again, that's not the case. The ignition can only come from the hole zone that the ignition token is actually within, as it says. All right, I think I have covered more than enough on SPHA-T. This video has gone for 20 minutes. But again, that's SPHA-T. I know it sounds complicated. It really isn't. It's very straightforward. It just requires, as with most of these cards with lots of words, a very firm grasp of rules. But again, if you still have questions, or if you're confused or need something more specific, please be sure to leave a comment. If it relates to a rule or ruling, you can make sure you post that up on the AMG forum, and I can make sure that gets looked at and addressed. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and hey, I hope you guys have a wonderful day.